Deb DiMatteo was an award-winning softball coach for the Chaparrals, leading the program to 4 NJCAA championships in her 10 seasons at the helm, after serving 2 seasons as an associate coach. She also served COD as an associate professor of physical education from 1994 to 2015. Her tenure included a 329 and 114 record, 8 consecutive appearances in the NJCAA World Series, 4 national championships, 98, 2000, 2001, and 2004, and also 2 runner-up finishes. Wow, what a run, lady. Yeah. Yeah. DiMatteo was named the NJCAA Softball Coach of the Year in 2000, 2001, and 2004. And not only is she a COD Athletic Hall of Famer, she's a member of the NJCAA Coaches, Benedictine, Great Lakes Conference, and Lewis Athletic Hall of Fames.
It's with great honor that I have the opportunity of inducting Deb DiMatteo into the COD Hall of Fame. Of all the people you could choose from today, the athletes you've coached over the years, the assistant coaches, you've selected me. And that's an honor. When I think about Deb, these 4 adjectives come to mind: strategy, confidence, competitive, and loyalty. I'll start with loyalty first. Deb is loyal. She is loyal to everybody she's ever met. She has your back. She'll stand up for you. She's somebody who does what she says and says what she does. And that's somebody you would always want to have on your side. She created that in every team that she's ever had at COD. She created strong loyalty that many of the teammates are friends today after, let's not say, but 27 years. But the second one that comes to mind is strategy. She was the best strategic coach I've ever played for. Her husband was pretty close to it too. But Deb's strategy was unwavering. She was the best chess player I have ever met. She could take a bunch of players that she's never met, put them together on a field, and win national championships. It's unheard of, and she did it 7 consecutive times, going to the NJCAA national tournament and winning it 4 times. That's pretty impressive. On top of that, she's competitive. I don't know if I've ever met anybody more competitive than Deb. I remember a story where we played against a team in one of our tournaments in Florida or somewhere, where we had to do a coin flip and we took the away side. Deb was down on the third baseline, and that team was heckling the heck out of us. It was a tight game. It was chippy. And Deb just took it like a champ. She called the game. She's so confident in that box, talking down to us. And when we won the game, I remember the team and the fans for the other team were just yelling at us. And she said, "Hurry up, grab your bags, let's just get out of here." But she was so competitive. She wanted to win that game so badly, and it came through to all of us. On the competitive side and the confidence side, there is a hilarious story that a couple of our teammates, Gina Blackwell and Lisa Morton, shared with me around how Deb used to know the rule book more than anybody else. There was a time where umpire made a call against us and not in the favor of COD, and she stormed down the line to the umpire, and they argued for a little while. And after she cited page numbers and rule book numbers, the umpire grabbed his book and started thumbing through it, and he noticed that she was right. He hung his head, reversed the call, and went behind the plate. That wasn't the first time that happened. It happened all the time. She was confident. My goodness. I don't know any coach who would ever go to a flip during a coin toss and always select away just to get in the other team's head. She was confident in all of us by giving us strategies, being confident in how she directed the game. And I remember multiple games where manufacturing of runs based on her ability to give us the strategy of the game, we would never have won. Whether she selected a bunt or a first and third play that she wanted to make work, we did it for her because she was confident in us and it was instilled in us. Deb, all those things are pieces of who you are as a leader, as a coach. But again, I'm going to end how I started, which is loyalty. You're a loyal person, a loyal friend. After 27 years of knowing you, I'm super excited that you get this honor finally to be inducted into the Hall of Fame at COD.
Deb DiMatteo. She was an award-winning softball coach for the Chaparrals, leading the program to 4 NJCAA championships in her 10 seasons at the helm, after serving 2 seasons as an associate head coach. She also served COD as an associate professor of physical education. Her tenure included a 329 and 114 record, 8 consecutive appearances in the NJCAA World Series, 4 national championships, and 2 runner-up finishes. DiMatteo was named the NJCAA Softball Coach of the Year in 2000, 2001, and 2004. She holds membership in 3 other Halls of Fame: NJCAA, Benedictine, and Lewis. Please welcome to the stage Coach Deb DiMatteo.
And I'm almost 70 and I can still jump up that stage, so that's pretty good. And I recently shot an 84 in golf, so my golf game's getting better. I'm actually quite exhausted. I've been working 18 hours a night for 6 nights running a huge national championship in Navy Pier, and some of my greats are with me. I bring everybody to work, but I'll try to not be too long because I could speak forever and I'm not going to and bore you. First of all, to Jane Vachev for making her dream come true. It was her idea for the Hall of Fame. And a Hall of Fame is pretty consistent in every collegiate or high school across the country, that you honor your great athletes and your coaches. So it took her a few years to get it, but it came to fruition, and she deserves all the credit in the world for doing that. Wendy tells the story of my rule book. Before I tell you a little bit, there's a little caveat to that story, okay? If you know anything about baseball or softball, if a ground ball is hit to the shortstop and there's a runner on second base running from second to third, do you have to stop and let that shortstop field that ball? You can just keep running as long as you don't touch her, right? So in a national tournament, we had a runner on second base, running to third in front of the shortstop to go to third base, doesn't touch the girl, and the umpire calls my runner out. The shortstop had muffed the ball. I went up to that umpire and I said, "Why are you calling her out?" And he said, "Because she ran in front of the shortstop." And I said, "Well, how are you supposed to get from second to third if you don't run in a straight line, semi-straight line, from second to third?" So I looked at him, and he just said, "That's the rule." I said, "Did she touch her?" I goaded him. I got him to say, "Oh, no, she didn't touch her." Okay, here comes the rule book. Okay? The rule is she has to make contact with her. So he looked at me, and he didn't know at this point in time. So they go to the umpire at home, who doesn't know. So they go to the rules committee, who doesn't know. So we have a 15-minute delay. And all of a sudden, the umpire at second's getting a little nervous because he thinks he might be wrong. And he had a really cool car. It was like a convertible. And he says to me while we're waiting, "I'm sure I'm right." He says, "But if I'm wrong, I'll bring you a case of your favorite beverage tomorrow." This is a national championship. And I looked at him and I said, "I drink Pepsi. I don't drink alcohol." He goes, "Really?" And I said, "I gave that up a long time ago in college," okay? But he goes, "All right, I'm so sure I'm right, but I'll bring you a case of Pepsi if I'm wrong." Interpretation comes back from the national committee. Bingo, he loses. Pulls up in his little Mustang convertible the next day with a case of Pepsi for us, okay? In my career, I only lost 1 out of 10, and I was still right on the 10th one, okay? Called one of my runners running backwards on a sacrifice bunt from home to first, and he definitely was wrong. So anyway, I'd like to more talk about how I ended up at College of DuPage, or almost did not end up at College of DuPage. And I'd like to call it the College of Discovery instead of College of DuPage, because this is where people come to discover what they want to do in life. My career path changed, like many of you probably out there, I was zipping along at Benedictine University for 15 years. After a one-year stint out of grad school, I was only 23 years old. I was telling Madam President here that I was 23 and a college professor and a college coach with zip experience. 23 years old. 1 year, moved back to Chicago because my husband decided he was going to lose me if he didn't offer to marry me. So I had moved back to Chicago, and I needed a job, and I got hired at Benedictine University. And I had a stellar 15-year career with tremendous athletes. I was a tenured professor. And then after 15 years, we got a vice president who didn't like athletics. And we pumped out probably 300 teachers who are recently retiring. Shows you how old I am. They're all in their 60s now. But we pumped out teacher after teacher from Benedictine in physical education and coaching. Vice president comes in. He doesn't like sports. He cuts the program. All of us tenured professors lose our jobs. Many of them were there much longer than me. Now we have a problem. Of all the professors, I'm the only female coach. The only female coach coaching two sports. None of the men were coaching two sports, head coach-wise. And I'm out of a job. The athletic director kept a couple other people. I went and knocked on his door and I said, "Why aren't you keeping me?" And he said, "Well, we had to make a choice." And he said, "You're successful." And to this day, Benedictine, the two sports that I had are still the most successful in their history. But this is 1994. He looked at me and he said, "You can get another job easily with your resume. I'm going to keep Mr. X because he has a family with 5 kids to feed. And he won't be able to find another position as easily as you." Ooh. Needless to say, a Title IX came after that, but that's a whole nother story. So I was going to lose my job. In 1994, my softball team was ranked 1 in the country. We tripped over our own feet, and we lost in the regional finals. And then the kids found out I was leaving, because I tried to keep it a secret. And I had a 26-year-old student who went to college for the first time at the age of 26, and this girl was one hell of a softball player. She walked in my office, and she threw down the Daily Herald newspaper. Does it still exist? Because I don't live here anymore. Okay? She threw newspapers, you know how we all read on the internet. Threw it on my desk and said, "Apply for this job." I looked at it. I said, "College of DuPage. That's a 2-year school." Now, granted, I only live 5 miles away. I'd never been on the campus. How is that possible? I don't know. She said, "They have a position open for faculty, and it's listing various sports that are open." It sat on my desk for a couple of days. In the meantime, I got 2 tremendous offers. Kansas State University head volleyball coach and Washington University in St. Louis. 2 phenomenal schools. But I have a husband who's coaching at another university, and we have 3 kids. So how are we going to just pull up stakes? So I looked up, said, "Okay, I'm going to apply." I get called for an interview. But before I went, "Is Coach Zimick here tonight?" She's in the Hall of Fame. I called her up and I said, "I don't want you to feel threatened. I am not after your job as a volleyball coach. I've been coaching 2 sports my entire life. I'm exhausted. We have 3 kids, and I have a husband who is a coach, and I would like to just have the softball position. So don't feel threatened if I interview for this job, because I'm not after your position." People were actually shocked that I was going to move out of coaching volleyball. I went for the interview. I was sick as a dog. I needed gallbladder surgery the next day. So I didn't do a very good job, I didn't think. But Mr. Klaus, where's Mr. Don Klaus, Hall of Famer? Where's Mr. Don Klaus? There he is back there. I'm in this interview, and I'm in a lot of pain trying to suck it up. And he says to me, "You're at a 4-year school. Why are you applying at a 2-year school?" So he says to me, he goes, and a legitimate question, "Well, why do you want to work here?" And in my heart, I'm saying, I need a job. And he did not move. But I remember saying to him, I can bring you a national champion. I said that. I said, I can bring you a national champion because I believe that in my heart. So I had that interview, and I walked out, and I said, I really sucked at this interview. I really did suck. I was in so much pain. And I didn't get picked. I was told 130 people applied. I don't know if that's true, but these were coveted positions at College of DuPage to be a faculty member. But then I get a phone call from Dr. Ralph Miller. Where's Mr. Miller? Oh, he's back there too, okay? And he calls me up and he offers me the job. And I turn him down. I said no. Because in my heart I was like, wow, I don't want to coach at a 2-year school. I'm not even familiar with 2-year schools. I don't know anything about 2-year schools. So he tried to give me some really good reasons. And then I didn't like the fact that I was going to have to be like teaching like a high school teacher for a while, like 6 service classes all day long. That didn't appeal to me. Going from the bowling alley to the tennis court to the fitness center to the weight room and teaching all these other sports. He called me back. He actually called me back and again asked me to think about it. And by that time I said, yes. And you know what? It would have been the biggest mistake of my life in my career if I had said no. And to this day, Dr. Miller can claim to fame, because he's often said it, he has the distinction, I don't know if it's a curse or a distinction, but he has hired both DiMatteos in his career. He hired my husband at Lewis University when he worked there, and he hired me at College of DuPage. So hence began my career at College of DuPage. And I have to tell you, the first year, I was sad. I was on an island. I didn't know if I was in the right place. I couldn't even work the Xerox machine. And the faculty had amazing credentials. If you look in the catalog of the college, look at the universities they've graduated from, their PhDs, their masters, their experience. But I felt lost that first year. And there's another professor who is now deceased, Dave Webster. Is he in the Hall of Fame? Yes, sure is. He was from the East Coast. He was a Bostonian. One of my kids lives in Boston. He saw me in the Xerox room one day, and I looked pretty down. I couldn't even figure out how to work the darn thing. And he put his arm around me. He goes, do you feel lost? I said, I really do. I said, I'm looking for another job. I said, I don't think I belong here. And he put his arm around me, and being a mentor, he said, hang in there. It gets easier. Being new is tough. And he said, you're going to be just fine. And he took me under his wing, and after that, we flew on. And the thing that I want to tell you that I learned is that I was concerned the most about what kind of kids would I get at a 2-year school. Because in a 4-year school, back then we didn't have nil money, okay? We didn't have the transfer portal that is really ruining, I think, in my opinion, college sports right now. Okay, and you can agree or disagree, but I feel you should either get free tuition, room and board, or nil money, and not both. And we've gotten to the point where it's like the Olympics. It's not amateurs anymore. It's professionals. It's become total professionalism. But I came to learn that I got the same kind of kids that I had at the 4-year school. The same kind of kids, the way Wendy was so kind in her presentation. They were great students. They loved to play ball. And I've always said this, they would run through a brick wall for me. And to this day, I will always say that. And I can't really say that there was ever a kid I coached that I didn't like. They may not have agreed with me, but there wasn't a kid that I didn't like, and wouldn't help. So I had the same kind of kids. And one person said to me when I said I was going to take the job, they said, you're going to the College of Dopes? And I guess there was all kinds of acronyms that COD used to be called. I don't remember any of the other ones. But it was the greatest opportunity of my life, and I'm glad I didn't take those other 2 jobs. And I had the same kind of kids my entire 27-year coaching career. Kids like Wendy and some others that are here. So I'll give you another. There's 3 people in this room who, after they graduated from College of DuPage, or College of Opportunity for them, they went on to my husband's school, and I'd like them to stand. Sarah Oakley, Gina Blackwell, Heimbecker, and Wendy Rashan. They graduated. They played on the national championship team in 2000. And then they went and transferred to get their 4-year degree at my husband's school. So I was called the AAA for Lewis University, okay? And they have the distinction the following year after transferring and getting their associates of playing in the national championship in the NCAA Division II for my husband. And ESPN came to interview me because we had just won, hopped a plane home, hopped a plane to Roanoke, Virginia, because he was going to be in the national championship. My young son at the time says it was my fault they lost in the championship because I jinxed them by showing up. But ESPN was going to interview us as the first husband-wife combination to win 2 national championships in 2 different divisions. But more importantly, these 3, I want to recognize that they played in 2 colleges on teams that went to national championships. So to me, my career is about the kids. You know, you take all the plaques. When we moved to Nevada 8 years ago, we threw most of them out, okay? You know, you've all acclaimed your, no longer participation trophies, okay? Like the kids can't imagine parents today cleaning out their bedrooms with all the participation trophies and medals. But to me, it's about the wonderful kids that I've met. Some of my earliest athletes are only a couple of years younger than me, and some of them have 6 grandchildren already. That's how long I coached. But they were the same kids I had at that 4-year school as I had at that 2-year school. And this school was an opportunity for them to have the time to decide what they wanted to do without wasting tons and tons of money. Wendy went to Purdue and then came back to college at DuPage and then finished up at Lewis. And she became a college coach. So I'm appreciative. Spent 21 years. Ralph, I'm glad you stuck with me, that you called me back a second time, because who knows where I would have ended up, possibly in a different profession. But the faculty that we had, and I know it's changed a lot, they've downsized the department, which is really disheartening to me because we had a huge department. And the faculty were allowed to coach back then, and now they are not. And I think that's a big disservice because you really need to be full-time, to be there all the time, to be teaching, coaching, and around those kids all the time. So I would just like to say that I am grateful for the student athletes that I had. I would say the vast majority of them went on and got bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and are all successful. And it was a great opportunity for me that I almost didn't take, and that would have been a mistake. So thank you so much, and I wish you all well.